it seemed kind of, people and their connection to the land seemed kind of personal, and I was kind of hesitant to talk to people about it. Now I'm not at all, because if they say, well, I'm not interested in protecting, that's fine. The more we're on our land, we walk every day, we're on it every day, and we just are in love with it. And so the thought of, it really lends itself, you can just see house next to house here, because we have this road that runs right through the land. And so
almost half a mile of road frontage.
Half a mile of road frontage.
Because we own both sides as when you're going up farther.
And it perks, and it would be very developable. So the thought of it being developed, since we saw where we both grew up, are just wall-to-wall houses now, was really difficult. So we really wanted to protect it. In this area with the Franklin Land Trust, who we worked with, first Mark Senek was their original director of it, and he was a very folksy guy, and we just came out and sat around and we just talked about it philosophical. And later on he used to tell the tale that, you never know when something's going to happen, because I can remember talking to people and then 10 years later they call me and say they want to do something. Well, that was us, because he talked to us and we say, yeah, we're going to do something, but 10 years later we decided and went over and all kept thinking about, well, maybe we should protect the lands. Then when the kids grew up and weren't living here and don't plan really to return here, we really thought seriously about protecting it.
We have 2 children. They don't want to live here. They couldn't get to Boston. One's in Boston.
They couldn't get to the cities fast enough.
Yeah, and they'd love to come home and visit, but they're not interested in living here. But before we put this CR on, we really discussed it with them and wanted them to understand where we were coming from and be able to voice their opinions. I think the Land Trust made it very easy for us to do it. They talked us through a lot of it.
Our initial vision was not really to get them involved, but to just let them know what we were doing and so forth. And it's really interesting. They decided to drop a note to our neighbors and ask them to come down, and just we had them pie and coffee, I think, in this room.
And we got quite an interesting assortment of people at that.
People are really attached to the land, and so that made very fertile ground in thinking about protecting it, which they really hadn't thought about. Well, why don't we talk about this road and its development with our neighbors? And we got somebody from Wildlife, Fishing and Wildlife, to come and talk about their plans. And lo and behold, when we started to talk to all their neighbors, all of our neighbors, all of them, they live here because they love the land, they love the rural character, and they began to think, well, gee, maybe, this is a good idea. If everything pans out, the state has put about 1,100 acres into the game management area, and we're going to have close to 1,000 acres that were privately owned on the other side that is all going to be protected, and we will have the road frontage protected from here up to the 4 corners at Main Poland Road and North Poland Road. So it's just... The 2 things that surprised me, one was how receptive people are to talking about it. They don't. I mean, you're not putting any pressure on them, but just to have them talk about their land. What does it mean to them? And once they start talking about it, then they start thinking about, well, what is its future going to be?